The answer is yes and no. Yes, it's instantaneous. Yes, it's effortless. And no, it's neither instantaneous nor effortless. It takes a lifetime or lifetimes of spiritual seeking. The reason is, the only reason is, the complication lies not in Advaita. The complication does not lie in the ultimate reality, in our real self. The complication lies in the apparent self. The complication lies in us, what we have generated over lifetimes, a cocoon of complexities that we have woven around ourselves, and which takes a lot of undoing. That's all. That's all. There's this story of the teacher, and student goes to him, please teach me about enlightenment. Please set me free. And the teacher says, okay, stay here. He used to stay in a cave. You have to clean the cave, and you have to go to the village and bring alms. And so the student starts working very hard, but days go by, and end of 2 or 3 months, he says, this teacher has not taught me anything. Why am I hanging around, wasting my time? I shall go to some other teacher. And he goes to the teacher. Teacher, you must set me free. Otherwise, I'm going to go to some other teacher. The teacher says, all right, come tomorrow. I'll set you free. So the next in the morning, this student goes, he's eager, I'm going to be set free today. And he sees the teacher standing outside the cave. There's this big old tree, and the teacher is grasping it like that and saying, set me free, free me. The student says, but sir, just let go. And the teacher said, precisely. But if I do not let go, if I'm holding on tight with all my might and say, free me, then you have to work really hard to pull out finger by finger and make me let go. That's a lot of work. The problem is the energy that we are putting into it in the opposite direction. So where is the catch? This first session is not about Advaita, not about the teachings themselves. It's about the foundations of Advaita. With these foundations, with the teachings that come, will lead to enlightenment effortlessly and instantaneously, I kid you not. Without these foundations, or without sufficient amount of this foundational work, the teachings of Advaita will, even if we get it, we just feel we have learned something very nice, a nice philosophy, or something really cool, makes you feel nice, and it's very, very fascinating. But the complaint will always be, you'll see this question, I understand what you're saying, but what do I do now? You know, a traditional Advaita teacher would say, you haven't understood. If you have understood, you wouldn't say, what do I do now? And that seems like a way to make me shut up. But no, that's what happens. With these foundational practices, Advaita leads to, the Advaitic teachings lead to straight to enlightenment. Without sufficient foundational work, they seem intellectual. They seem like a fascinating intellectual game. So what are these foundations? I'll run through them. They are the well-known and dreaded fourfold qualifications. Here is the difference between the bhakti path and the path of knowledge, the path of devotion and love and the path of knowledge. If you go to the path of devotion, they'll never start with a fourfold qualification, even one-fold qualification. So at least you need to love God. No. That will also come later. You just need to make a beginning in the path of devotion. But the path of knowledge is a sort of Ivy League. You need to have very high SAT scores to get in. So what are these entry qualifications? I remember a very ancient university in Nalanda, which is in India, in the state of Bihar. The university started around 500 AD and lasted to around 1200 AD until it was destroyed by invaders. So it lasted for 800 or 900 years, 800 years. And I was just thinking, the oldest college in Balliol is Balliol in Oxford. The oldest college in Oxford University is Balliol, which started around that time, 12th, 13th century. That's when Nalanda ended. This was a huge university, 11,000 students at its peak, and each student had and usually it was his because it was a very patriarchal society, their own room, so it's huge. The reason I'm saying this is, they had an interesting system. All those students who wanted to study in this great university of the East in the ancient India, they would have to go through what can be literally called an entrance examination. At the entrance, the gatekeeper would be a pandit, a scholar, and he will quiz you on grammar and and some literature and some of the basics of scripture, some sort of a set of things. And if you pass it, then you literally get to enter it. I think that's how the name came, entrance examination. So that's the legend. So what is the entrance examination here? The fourfold qualifications, Viveka, Vairagya, I'll write it down for you. The sixfold treasure and Mumukshutvam. So let me write down the words for you. The fourfold qualification. I'll give you the English meanings too. Viveka means analysis or discrimination. Discrimination not in a bad sense, not discriminating against somebody or the other. I'll say what it means, but analysis or discrimination. Then Vairagya, literally dispassion. And then Shat Sampatti, the sixfold treasure. Sixfold treasure. Shat Sampatti. And finally, Mumukshutvam. Mumukshutvam. Ksutvam. Which means an intense desire to be free. So Viveka, from which the name Vivekananda comes, means the discrimination between the eternal and the non-eternal. Eternal and non-eternal. The Sanskrit roots vivich, which means to separate two things. In our understanding, if this clarity comes, that there is some spiritual reality, some solution to the problem of life, and that is worth having compared to everything else in life. So the way it is put in Vedanta is Viveka is between Nitya and Anitya Vastu. Nitya means the eternal and Anitya means the non-eternal. Between the eternal and non-eternal. You'd say that how do I know there is something eternal? We don't. We have heard about it. Teachers have spoken about it. The scriptural texts of different traditions speak about it. There is a solution to human life. There is. And we have some kind of working faith in it. All right, maybe it's possible, it attracts me, something within me feels that there is something to it. And as against this, everything else in life. So, spiritual life really starts when it is not one among many things. Viveka, V-I-V-E-K. It's not one among many things. Yeah, there is spirituality and my shopping to do and looking for a raise and a nice vacation in the Bahamas next year. And one of the things I need to do is spirituality. No, not in that way. The spiritual quest is first and foremost. This is my life. That might be possible for you, Swami. You're a monk. No, it's for everybody. The Gita was taught to Arjuna, who was a householder and a warrior in the nastiest business that human beings have ever engaged in, warfare. And there Vedanta is taught. So if Vedanta is taught in the battlefield, it's possible for us in any sphere of life. But it requires that commitment that I want enlightenment. The Buddha wanted enlightenment. That's why the Prince Siddhartha became the Buddha, in the quest for enlightenment. So we are setting out on that same heroic quest. That I want enlightenment. I want this wisdom, this darshan, this theoria. That is Viveka. The distinction between the eternal and the non-eternal. Second, Vairagya. Once the distinction becomes clear, then where do you go from there? I have a dispassion for the non-eternal and a passion for the eternal. I have a dispassion for the non-spiritual and a passion for the spiritual. I want to realize this. You see, it works for everything, whether the path of devotion or mystical experience or the path of knowledge, anywhere. You must be that this is the thing for me. I want to realize this, and all other pursuits in life. If you're a monk, you give it up. All of the pursuits in life, If you are in the world, you cannot give it up. You have to pay taxes, and you have to take care of the family. You have to at least you take care of yourself. So those are secondary. They become secondary. Even a monk in the Himalayas, the monk also has to go out to beg for his daily round of begging for food. There is a saying in the Himalayas, one of the names they use for monks is Maharaja. Maharaja means king, the great king. Now these people are beggars. We don't own anything, let alone a kingdom. So why are you called a king? So there's a saying in the Himalayas that these monks, they are beggars 1 hour a day, and they are emperors 23 hours a day. They are beggars 1 hour a day when they go out begging for their daily food. But other 23 hours they are Maharaja, because they're completely set free from everything in the world. Swami Turiyanandaji used to love repeating this. So Vairagya, what does it? How do you become a Maharaja? Whether you are a monk in the Himalayas or in San Diego, which, as we heard, it's no less than Varanasi or the Himalayas. But the foundation must be Vairagya. Vairagya is what protects us from the to-do lists of the world. Those are there, they have to be accomplished, but they are not primary to my life. Primary, they have only one to-do thing, to become enlightened. So that is Vairagya. Then, here's a little trick, an accounting trick. Shat Sampatti, Sixfold Treasure. It's supposed to be 1, but they have pushed in 6 here. So the total becomes 9 actually. So you have 6 plus 3, so 9, not 4. But anyhow, they pushed it in. You know that story about they were hiring somebody in a company, and the first person who comes in is an engineer, and they ask him a simple question: what is 2 plus 2? And the engineer quickly whips out his sliding rule, and he does complex calculations and measurements. He says it's approximately between 3.9 and 4.1. 2 plus 2 is somewhere in between that, an approximation. And then a person comes who has an accounting degree, and they ask him, what is 2 plus 2? He gets up and quickly shuts the door and comes in a hush. He asks, what do you want it to be? What do you want it to be? So that's, you see, it's supposed to be 4-fold qualification, and then they hit us with the 9-fold qualification. There's the fine print, hidden costs in there.
You get one.
You've started already?
Yes.
Okay. I'll tell you the joke. Let me tell you the joke anyway, because I started it. In the Vedanta Society of New York, the system is that the Q&A, we give a talk, and then there's a Q&A, and the Q&A goes on until the lunch is ready. So somebody has to give me a signal that, from the back there, the lunch is ready, so no more questions. So sometimes I have to ask, is the food ready? And people have given comments in the YouTube section that why does he keep talking about food? Why does he? Now we had once a visitor from Vienna, Austria. This lady, she's a professor of music. She came visiting, and she said, I listen to those talks which are recorded here, and I like it very much. But my one unhappiness is I never get the food. So she finally came to New York, and then she said, I'm so happy, at least I'm getting the food now. She went and actually physically had the food there. So the Shat Sampatti. This is what is called spiritual discipline. Americans would say getting your act together. So what does it comprise of? 6 things. Six practices. Sampatti means treasure. Shat means 6. 6 treasures. The first one is Shamaha. Shamaha in Sanskrit, it means quietude and inner calmness. If the mind is running after 101 things, then nothing is possible. No great thing, whether it's science or art or anything, is possible if the mind is scattered and running after many different things. So a little inner quietude of the mind is required, so that I can attend to. I have decided I am going to on the greatest adventure that a human being can set out on, the spiritual adventure, the quest for enlightenment. So I must concentrate on that, and that requires calmness. a certain settledness. And it takes a little bit of maturity to get that settledness. I remember reading, it's very interesting. Monasteries were always, we want young people to come and join, young people to come and join. Young people are not coming, whether to the classes or the retreats or trying to become monks or nuns. But I was reading Swami Ashokanandaji in San Francisco. Somebody was telling Swami Ashokananda that young people are not coming. We need more young people to come and join the order as monks and nuns. And then he said, no, we don't need that. Young people are too volatile. We need middle-aged people with a few decades of life and effort left in them. So they are people, but he has a point there. Samah means a certain quietude of mind which comes after maturity, having taken a look at the world and sort of seen that, all right, this is what is there in the world. Now what's worth searching for? What's worth putting my time and effort into? My limited time and effort into. I have very limited time and energy. Then next, Damah. Damah means control of sensory system. Damah means control of sensory system. I haven't written that down yet. That comes in the Sixfold practices. Shamaha, Damah. If you want to write it in English, you can write D-A-M-A. Damah. And Shama, you can write S-A-M-A. Damah. Damah means control of the sensory system. A tremendous amount of energy and activity is due to the activity of our senses. Our brains are continuously engaged. I was just reading, it seems 1/3 of the neocortex is engaged with the eyes alone. You open the eyes, 1/3 of the neocortex becomes busy with absorbing information, filtering it, interpreting. 1/3 of our cognitive capacities. I'm amazed. I didn't know that. But it is true. The ancient yogis, they knew this. So control of the sensory system is necessary for any serious inner work. Eyes. I want to see. No. I want to see? You can see the Vedanta Society and the Vedanta text. That's all you're going to go see, buddy. So that's control of the eyes. Taste. Control of the taste. The monks, and this is very, very non-glamorous, but the monks, they have their conception of food is, there is a disease called hunger and food is the medicine. There's a disease called thirst and you drink water from the river Ganga, that's the medicine. Food and drink are treated as medicine. Somebody said, Swami, you're going to wipe out half the businesses on Broadway. If you take a monastic approach to this, if you walk down Broadway, Amsterdam and all of that, you'll see the two kinds of things going on there. There's food. New York is like one of the food capitals of the world. People, foodies love it. And there are clothes. There are clothes. Huge clothes, jewels. Now if you make up your mind, clothing is only one thing, this. That's it. Range of colors, dresses, no, this. That's all. You have wiped out 99% of the garments industry. And food is exactly what you get. Nothing else. You're not going to seek out this kind of food or that kind of food. Just enough to sustain yourself in. So that is Damah, control of the taste. Remember, on all of these things, you can immediately see there's a spectrum. You can be an ascetic living on the bank of the river at 10,000 feet in the Himalayas, with where you take these to the maximum possible extent. But there's a spectrum. And we are already on the spectrum. Don't think that, oh, I don't have any of this. What's the point? Why did I register for the retreat? I could have relaxed at home. No, we already have it. The very fact that we are willing to take the trouble of coming to this retreat and spending days and days listening, practicing, thinking, we already have it. Without that, one would not be interested. So we have these fourfold qualifications. Just you have to top them up. You have to keep an eye on them. A modern example will be when you drive, certain things you have to keep your eye on. You have to keep your eye on the road, you have to keep your eye on the speed, you have to keep your eye on the gas and things like that, on your mirrors. So these are the 4 things you have to keep your eye on when you're driving down the road of spiritual life. How is my Viveka doing? How is my Vairagya doing? How are the sixfold practices and my desire to get enlightenment? Damah, control of the senses. Mostly it is eyes, ears and tongue. Desire to see, hear, taste, touch also. Touch is an extremely powerful thing. Smell not so much. So the fivefold, the five sensory organs, but the five motor organs too. The desire to go from place to place. I have legs. Just because I have legs, do you have to continuously walk around? Just because I have hands, you have to keep grabbing things? No, I don't. Obviously, I use them when I need them. I remember seeing this old Charlie Chaplin movie. I think it was Modern Times, where they show the factory system. And Charlie Chaplin is, his job is to tighten the screws on the assembly which is coming. Each item comes, he has to tighten the screw like this. And that's, he has got a wrench. And all throughout, day, hour after hour, day after day, all he does is this. And there is a lunch break. So there's a siren goes up and there's a lunch break. But he can't stop doing this. He goes around doing this. And the foreman comes and yells at him, "Stop it!" I mean, there's no sound there. It's just, you can see he's shouting at him. And Charlie Chaplin takes his nose and does this. But there's a point there. Our sensory systems are actually autonomous. They have a certain inner intelligence to them. Our sensory systems and our motor organs have a certain limited, we can understand it these days, in the days of artificial intelligence and machines which have a little bit of intelligence in them. I heard the Japanese are big on this. All sorts of devices, they talk and they, everything. Including, I heard, horror of horrors, the commode in the bathroom. This, it can talk and it can, so, and our sensory organs have some autonomy. Just as an aside here, Jonathan Haidt, H-A-I-D-T, he is a psychologist in the United States. He's written this book, The Happiness Hypothesis. In that book, he raises an important question. So much is available today in positive psychology, and if you go to the Barnes and Nobles, one of the biggest sections is the self books, promising good relationships, success in 30 days, losing weight and gaining focus, anything, all the things that we want from this body-mind system. All sorts of excellence is promised, he says. It should have revolutionized human happiness, yet it has not. They are not really very different. And the publishing industry has benefited, but I don't know how much we have benefited. He asks, why not? It's not that these books are false. They all have a nugget of truth to them. So why isn't it working? And he says why it isn't working is, he gives the example of an elephant and its rider. It's an ancient Indian example. He says the elephant and the rider, it's called a mahout. Mahout is the rider, the one who sits on top of the elephant. And wherever the mahout wants it to go, the elephant goes. But it works only if the elephant and the mahout agree. The elephant is much stronger than the mahout. So the elephant wants to go and eat the bananas there, and the mahout says, no, you have to go there and pick the logs in the forest. No. Mahout cannot do anything. The elephant is much, much stronger. It's only if the elephant agrees to the mahout's commands. Then only it will go. So what's the point? The intellect, our understanding, is like the mahout, is a rider. And the rest of the body-mind system is the elephant. The physical body is the elephant. Our emotions, perceptions, prejudices, the rest of it, other than the intellect. Now here is the problem. It's the intellect who goes to retreats and reads books and papers and gets excited about ideas and makes decisions about, this is the way I'm going to, this is great. I have to get up early in the morning and do yoga. Here are the benefits. I'm convinced, I'm sold. From tomorrow onwards, I'm going to get up in the morning and do yoga. When the time comes, the intellect is convinced. It's delighted. It's wonderful. When it comes early in the morning, it's cold and you're comfortable under the comforter. Time to get up and do the yoga, which the intellect has decided. The body says, I didn't sign up for that. It's your idea. You go and do yoga. I'm not going. The body is the elephant. And it never signs up for the fancy projects which the intellect, the mahout, signs up for. It doesn't read papers, or it's not interested in the seminars, it doesn't read books, it doesn't get excited about ideas. It's the intellect which gets excited. And he says this is what happens to most of us. He says clearly, the sensory system and the motor system, they are not tuned with the latest ideas in our intellect. And it would be odd to think that. So what do they respond to? He has a very interesting insight, which agrees very well with these ancient teachers. He says the intellect responds to reasoning, it responds to ideas, it responds to teaching. The body mind, what does the elephant respond to? Not arguments, not PowerPoint. The elephant is not interested in that. The elephant responds to training. The only way you're going to get an elephant to listen to you is by training the elephant. And the body responds to training. The body is a creature of habit. It's easy for somebody to get up early in the morning and do yoga. It's terribly difficult for the other person to do the same thing. It's only a difference in habit, what you have trained the body to do. So the sensory system, Damah, training of the sensory system is necessary. Control means training, replacing dysfunctional habits with functional habits. You may think it's very difficult. What is difficult is making the transition. Afterwards, it's not difficult. As easy as it is for me to lie under a bed, so equally easy will it be for me to get up and do yoga once I've made the transition. Equally uncomfortable for me to lie under bed after the sun is up, because the habits have changed. Then you have what is called Titiksha. Titiksha literally means, remember we are in the Sixfold practices. Titiksha means spiritual toughness. Spiritual toughness, a spiritual fortitude. A toughness, a fortitude. Whatever you try to accomplish in life, life will make it difficult for you. Imagine the amount of trouble we put up for holding a job, for raising a family, years and years. Today I'm sick. I don't feel like going to pick up the kids. You never say that. They can walk home. I don't care. No, you don't say that. Even if you're sick and unwilling, you turn up at your job, you turn up at the school to pick up the children, and so forth. That's all that is required in spiritual path. That kind of toughness and willing to put up with some trouble. Otherwise, what happens is, spiritual life is often a thing of fancy. Things are going well, and I've got some time to spare, and here are some nice books and nice retreats, let me do that. When things are tough, these are the first things to be thrown overboard. No, do it the other way around. This is the first thing I will hold on to. Especially when things get tough, this is what I'll hold on to even more. I loved it, this Martin Luther, the Protestant, the monk who started the Protestant movement in Germany, Martin Luther. He writes in a place that his daily routine, he spends an hour kneeling down and praying in the morning. And he says when he has too much to do, too much work to do, he spends 1 more hour kneeling down and praying. Wow. So this is the insight. My strength comes from spiritual life. When things are easy, when things are tough, I need more of that, not less of that. Okay. Spiritual toughness, the willingness to put up with trouble, with illness, with unhappiness, with financial problems, relationship problems, weather problems, discomfort. I'm willing to put up with that in order to get spiritual, to go ahead on spiritual journey. Then, okay. And then you have Uparati and Samadhana. They go together. Uparati means, Rati means a delight in the things of the world. Taste and sense and touch and seeing. Uparati literally the opposite. Step back from multifarious sensory delights so that the energy and time is saved, and use it for the Samadhana. You need not write that, just hear that. Samadhana means focus. So, Uparati means literally reverse the tendency to flow outwards for enjoyment. Turn inwards. And Samadhana means stay there. Stay there. Stick to your meditation, stick to your devotional practices, and stick to the Vedantic inquiry. This is Samadhana. And then we have Sraddha, which is a working faith, that these teachings, there's something in them worth pursuing. A working faith in the teachings of the texts and the teachers. That is Sraddha, a working faith, a faith that it is so. I don't get it yet, I will, let me persist. And then the last one, Mumukshutvam. Did I get all the 6? Yes.
Yeah.
Mumukshutvam.
No.
Sraddha. So we have got Samah, Damah, then we have got Titiksha, Uparati and Samadhana, 2 different ones. And then Sraddha. Upadana and Samadhana, they're 2 different ones. So that's 4 and 5. The 6th one is Sraddha, a faith. So this faith sustains you in spiritual life. Notice none of them are anything remarkable. It's common sense. Any great endeavor, you need to have these things. And you need to have these things for spiritual life too. The last one is Mumukshutvam, an intense desire to be free. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna, in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, he says this last one is all that you need for spiritual life. He called it Vyakulata, a restlessness for God, a restlessness for enlightenment. I want it, I want it, I want it. That's all that there is to it. So why not just say that? Here's the problem. If I say go and eat, we say okay. If I say go and be hungry, you scratch your head and say, how can, either I feel hungry or I don't feel hungry. How can I be hungry? Worship God. Okay. Love God. Love is not a feeling that you can create like that. So intense desire to be free. Either you feel it or you don't feel it. How can you generate? You can sort of simulate it maybe, but it has to come from within. It's like hunger. So here is the one thing I'll say before I end. There's a secret about these fourfold qualifications. The secret is this. They are causally linked, not casually, causally linked. The preceding one is the cause of the next one. What it means is this. Viveka generates Vairagya. Viveka generates Vairagya. This clarity that there is something to be attained in spiritual life. Then you would want to have that, and you'll have the power to dismiss other pursuits in life. So Viveka generates Vairagya. And Viveka and Vairagya together, they generate and strengthen the sixfold treasures, the spiritual disciplines. They become strong when Viveka and Vairagya are there. If Viveka and Vairagya are not there, there are people who practice lots of spiritual disciplines. But Viveka and Vairagya are not there, so they don't make much progress in spiritual life. The people who practice ritualism, some kind of ritual practice, some kind of austerities, lifelong, will still remain very worldly and not particularly spiritually enlightened. Viveka and Vairagya are causally linked. These two generate this. And all 3 together, or all 8 of them together, they generate and strengthen Mumukshutvam. If I have these, my desire for God becomes stronger and stronger. My desire for enlightenment becomes stronger and stronger. If these are weak, this is equally weakened. Practical point here. This is one takeaway. Remember this causal link, how to apply this? Whenever we have practical problems in spiritual life, identify where is the problem. And here is the secret. Whenever we have a problem, I can't give up my desire for such and such thing. I want it. I'm struggling with it. Here is the problem. We're struggling with it. Don't struggle with that. I have a problem with Vairagya, dispassion for the world. And what normally the usual tendency is to struggle with that only. Yeah. This is the secret. Don't struggle with that. Go back to the previous thing and then try to strengthen that. Strengthen Viveka, Vairagya will come. Strengthen Viveka and Vairagya, this will come. Yeah. Strengthen these, the desire for God will come automatically. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.